My friends, every empire, every dynasty, every kingdom that has ever risen or fallen throughout history has been shaped by one thing, the invisible laws of power. Washington, D.C., the beating heart of American politics, is no exception. Behind the marble buildings, behind the polished speeches, and behind the carefully staged smiles lies a blueprint so old, so tested, and so deliberate that it creates wealth and influence for a select few, while the many are left scrambling, wondering why their hard work seems to buy them less freedom, less security, and less opportunity. Today, I want to expose that blueprint, not to condemn it, because power itself is neither good nor evil, but to reveal the psychological and spiritual forces that shape it. Because when you understand how wealth and influence are created and concentrated at the top, you can apply those same laws in your own life. You can choose to build your destiny instead of being broken by it. The hidden laws of influence, you see, Washington does not run on politics. Washington runs on human nature. Every decision, every bill, every alliance is governed by the same timeless laws that determine success in business, in leadership, and in personal achievement. The difference is, most people are unaware of them. The first law is definiteness of purpose. No one rises to power in Washington without a definite purpose. Behind every campaign slogan, behind every talking point, there is an invisible chief aim. Some pursue wealth. Some pursue influence. Some pursue the security of their families for generations. But make no mistake, no one climbs the ladder of power without burning desire aimed at a specific target. Meanwhile, the masses live without clear aims. They drift, they react, they let circumstances dictate their lives, while leaders, however flawed, bend those same circumstances to their advantage. Why the few control the many? The blueprint is simple. He who controls the mind controls the man. Washington controls wealth and influence, not merely through laws, not merely through money, but through the art of shaping belief, propaganda, branding, repetition, and narrative. These are tools of persuasion older than democracy itself. If you can get a man to believe he is free while you direct his choices from behind the curtain, you have mastered the highest form of power. The invisible war, my friends, is not fought on battlefields. It is fought in the minds of men and women. The advertisements, the speeches, the breaking news flashes across your screen, these are not random. They are calculated psychological devices designed to mold public opinion, to direct emotion, and to control decision. And here lies the bitter truth. Most people surrender their thinking. They consume without questioning. They obey without analyzing. They drift in the tides of public opinion, while others quietly accumulate power. The psychology of wealth and power. Let me ask you, why is it that men and women who enter politics with modest means often leave with fortunes? Why do corporations pour millions into campaigns? Why do industries bend policy to their will? Because those who understand the blueprint know this money follows influence, and influence follows organized power. Washington is not a marketplace of ideas. It is a marketplace of leverage. And leverage is always built upon the same principles that build fortunes in business. Definiteness of purpose. Know exactly what you want and pursue it relentlessly. Mastermind alliances. Surround yourself with individuals whose skills, resources, and influence multiply your own. Faith and belief convince others to see your vision, to follow it, to invest in it. Persistence outlasts every critic, every scandal, every resistance until your position is secured. Organized planning, every speech, every move, every connection is strategic. Nothing is left to chance. The blueprint of power is simply the blueprint of success, magnified, weaponized, and applied to politics. The cost of ignorance now here is where the lesson becomes personal. Most people hear about corruption, wealth, and manipulation and respond with despair, resentment, or cynicism. But that reaction is itself part of the trap. Because while you complain, those who understand the laws of success keep moving forward. While you drift in frustration, they build alliances, accumulate wealth, and expand influence. The truth is this: ignorance of these laws does not excuse you from their effects. If you do not master your own definite purpose, someone else will use you to achieve theirs. If you do not control your own mind, someone else will occupy it. If you do not build wealth with intention, you will be exploited by those who do. Washington's hidden wealth and influence are not mysterious. They are simply the results of applying age-old principles with discipline and intensity. The invisible war within. But here's the greater war, the one few ever recognize. It is not merely the war between political parties. It is not the war between corporations and the people. It is the war within each individual, the struggle between drifting and discipline, between passivity and purpose, between fear and faith. This invisible war decides whether you will rise or fall, whether you will remain a pawn or become a master of your destiny. Washington's elite have simply mastered their internal war. They understand that power begins in the mind, and they guard their thoughts as carefully as they guard their fortunes. The average person, however, allows doubt, fear, and indecision to sabotage every chance at advancement. They give up before persistence can reward them. They blame circumstances instead of commanding them. They drift, and drifting is the greatest enemy of all. Building your own blueprint. Now, why should this matter to you? Because you too have access to the same laws. You too can build influence. You too can create wealth, not necessarily to dominate Washington, but to govern your own life with authority. The secret blueprint behind Washington's hidden wealth and influence is not exclusive. It is simply hidden in plain sight. Let me give it to you plainly. Decide exactly what you want. Write it down. See it, believe it. Refuse to let it go. Build your alliances. No one succeeds alone. Gather people who complement your strengths and reinforce your vision. Control your thoughts. Guard them against negativity, fear, and drifting. What you think repeatedly, you will become. Persist beyond resistance. Most men quit after the first defeat. Power belongs to those who never quit. Organize your plan. Success is not an accident. Every victory is engineered through strategy. Apply these principles and you will discover that the same forces that build hidden fortunes in Washington can build wealth, freedom, and influence in your own life. The courage to see clearly. But let me give you a warning. Once you understand the blueprint, you cannot unsee it. You will recognize it in every speech, every campaign, every decision made in the halls of power. You will see how narratives are crafted to stir emotion. You will see how policies are shaped not by ideals, but by alliances and influence. And you will face a choice to be embittered by this knowledge or to be empowered by it. Those who are embittered complain. Those who are empowered act. The invisible war is not won by the loudest protest, but by the strongest mind. Final reflection. So I ask you, will you drift or will you decide? Will you let others use you as a pawn in their design? Or will you become the master architect of your own destiny? Washington's wealth and influence are not a mystery. They are the inevitable outcome of applying the laws of power with ruthless precision. But those same laws are available to you if only you will claim them. Because in the end, the secret blueprint is not merely about politics. It is about life itself. He who masters his mind masters his world. He who organizes his purpose organizes his destiny. He who builds alliances and persists builds empires, whether in Washington in business or in the quiet empire of his own household. The secret is not hidden. It is waiting. And the question is not whether the blueprint works. The only question is, will you use it? If there is one truth that has never changed from the beginning of civilization until this very hour, it is this: definiteness of purpose decides power. The nations that rise, the leaders that dominate, the businesses that thrive, the individuals that ascend from obscurity to greatness, all share this single quality, a burning definiteness of purpose. And the opposite is just as true. Every downfall, every wasted life, every failure of potential, these tragedies can be traced back to one cause: a lack of definite aim. The eternal principle of power. Look around you. Look at Washington. Look at the corporate towers. Look at the global stage. You will see men and women who control massive resources. You will see politicians who shape laws, executives who bend industries, and leaders who seem to command the direction of entire nations. Do you think they rose there by accident? Do you think influence, wealth, and power simply drifted into their laps? No. Behind every man or woman of power, you will always find a definite chief aim, a purpose so clear, so burning, so unshakable that it commands attention, attracts resources, and compels others to follow. This is the blueprint of power. Clarity creates magnetism. When an individual knows exactly what they want, the world conspires to help them get it. But when an individual drifts without aim, the world uses them as fuel for someone else's purpose. Why purpose creates leaders' purpose is not merely an idea. It is a force. Definiteness of purpose provides the foundation upon which courage, persistence, and strategy are built. Without it, even the most gifted individual becomes weak, scattered, and ineffective. Look at history. George Washington had one definite purpose: to secure independence for the colonies, no matter the cost. That purpose turned farmers into soldiers, despair into discipline, defeat into eventual triumph. Abraham Lincoln had one definite purpose: to preserve the Union and abolish slavery. That purpose sustained him through ridicule, political isolation, crushing personal loss, and the bloodiest war in American history. Martin Luther King Jr. had one definite purpose: equality for all men and women. That purpose gave his words fire, his marches power, his message immortality. And today, in Washington and beyond, the individuals who control the levers of wealth and influence are not necessarily the smartest, nor the most moral, nor the most deserving. They are simply the most definite. The danger of drifting now, consider the opposite. The vast majority of people live without definiteness of purpose. They drift through life as ships without rudders, carried wherever the winds of circumstance and public opinion blow them. They wake up and go to jobs they hate, not because they chose them with intention, but because they stumbled into them by default. They consume media, not with discernment, but with passivity. They adopt belief, not from inner conviction, but from repetition of slogans, headlines, and sound bites. And what is the result? Their lives are controlled not by their own minds, but by the purposes of others. The man without a purpose becomes a servant to the man with one. The citizen without a purpose becomes a pawn in the hands of leaders who do have one. The generation without a purpose becomes a playground for those who know how to exploit drifting masses. This is why definiteness of purpose is not merely a principle for personal success. It is a matter of freedom itself. Purpose in politics. The unseen blueprint let us speak plainly. Why do certain politicians rise above the rest? Why do some voices carry weight while others fade into obscurity? Why do some accumulate vast fortunes while others remain trapped in mediocrity? It is not chance. It is not luck. It is not even intelligence. It is purpose. Behind the smiling face, behind the slogans, behind the campaign promises lies a burning definiteness of aim. For some, that purpose is wealth. For others, influence. For others, legacy. But in every case, there is something clear, specific, and non-negotiable that drives their every action. And the public drifts. They vote not with purpose, but with emotion. They follow not with conviction, but with impulse. And because the masses lack definiteness of purpose, they become clay in the hands of those who possess it. This is the invisible war of politics. The few who are definite in their purpose shape the destinies of the many who are not. Purpose creates magnetism. Here is a law as sure as gravity. When you decide exactly what you want and refuse to let it go, life begins to rearrange itself in your favor. Opportunities appear where none seem possible. Allies reveal themselves. Resources flow to you. Even your enemies, without knowing it, push you closer to your aim. Why? Because definiteness of purpose creates focus. Focus creates energy. Energy creates magnetism. And magnetism pulls circumstances into alignment. This is why men and women with clear purpose seem unstoppable. Their very presence commands attention. Their words carry weight. Their persistence crushes resistance. And yet, the average person wanders through life asking, what should I do? What's my next step? What if I fail? The definite individual never asks such questions. They know what they want. They know where they are going. And they know that nothing, not failure, not ridicule, not opposition, will stop them. Purpose overcomes fear. The greatest enemy of mankind is fear. Fear of criticism, fear of poverty, fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of loss. Fear paralyzes action. It kills ambition. It weakens the will. But definiteness of purpose is the antidote to fear. When you have a clear aim, fear becomes irrelevant. You may feel it, but it cannot stop you, because your purpose burns hotter than your fear. Think of a mother whose child is in danger. She may be terrified, but her definite purpose, to save her child, overpowers that fear and drives her into action. So it is with every man and woman of purpose. Their aim becomes so clear, so necessary, so unshakable that fear loses its grip. And herein lies the secret of why purpose decides power. Because power always belongs to those who act, and only those with definite purpose act consistently in spite of fear. Purpose turns obstacles into fuel. Without purpose, every obstacle is a reason to quit. With purpose, every obstacle is fuel for persistence. Think of Thomas Edison. His definite purpose was to bring light to the world through the electric lamp. He failed not once, not twice, but thousands of times. Each failure would have destroyed a drifting man. But Edison had a purpose. And that purpose turned every defeat into information, every setback into a stepping stone. Or think of Washington's leaders today. Scandals, criticism, opposition. These would annihilate the ordinary individual. But for those with definite aims, these are nothing but temporary hurdles. Their purpose makes them endure, adapt, and ultimately triumph. Purpose is the difference between the man who collapses at the first sign of resistance and the man who bends resistance into momentum. How to find definiteness of purpose. Now you may ask, how do I find my definite purpose? The answer is both simple and difficult. First ask yourself, what do I want most? Not what others expect of you. Not what society tells you. Not what your fear whispers. But what you want with such intensity that you would sacrifice, sweat, and struggle to make it real. Second, make it specific. Do not say, I want success. Say, I will build a business that generates $1 million in revenue within 5 years. Do not say, I want freedom. Say, I will pay off every debt within 3 years and create investments that cover my living expenses. Third, commit it to writing. Words unrecorded are dreams. Words written become commands. Fourth, repeat it daily until it becomes part of your identity. The human mind cannot resist the power of repetition. What you impress upon it consistently, it will manifest. And finally, refuse to quit. Understand that purpose is not proven by easy victories. It is proven by endurance. The man who persists after every defeat is the man who ultimately wins. Purpose creates destiny. Definiteness of purpose is not merely about achievement. It is about destiny. Because in the end, your destiny is not determined by chance, by politics, or by circumstances. It is determined by your purpose and the degree to which you cling to it. A man with no purpose is like a leaf in the wind, blown here, blown there, at the mercy of forces outside himself. But a man with purpose is like a ship with a compass. Storms may strike, waves may rise, winds may change, but he sails steadily toward his chosen port. This is the hidden law behind all greatness. Power flows to purpose. Those who drift become pawns. Those who decide become kings. The invisible war of purpose. And so we return to the invisible war. The war is not merely between political parties. The war is not merely between corporations and the people. The war is not even between nations. The real war is between definiteness of purpose and the drifting of the human soul. For the individual, this war decides whether you will become a master of your fate or a victim of circumstance. For society, this war decides whether freedom will flourish or fade. A nation of individuals with definite purpose cannot be controlled, but a nation of drifters can be manipulated with ease. And this is why, my friends, definiteness of purpose is not optional. It is essential. It is the very line that separates power from weakness, success from failure, freedom from bondage. Every age, every society, every empire that has ever existed has been built on one foundational truth. Influence is wealth's first currency. Long before coins were minted, long before paper money was printed, long before digital dollars and cryptocurrency reshaped the financial world, there was influence. Influence is older than gold, older than markets, older than the systems we now call economies. Influence was the power that determined which tribes followed which leaders, which empires rose and which crumbled, which individuals commanded armies and which individuals begged for scraps. And today, nothing has changed. The greatest fortunes in the world are not built on products alone. They are built on the ability to shape belief, to direct attention, to persuade, to command trust, and to organize masses of people around a vision. Influence, not money, is the true beginning of all wealth. Money is the shadow. Influence is the light. Influence, the invisible currency. Let us begin by clarifying what influence is. Influence is not mere popularity. Influence is not being liked. Influence is not just charisma. Influence is the power to move others, to shape decisions, to alter outcomes, to cause men and women to act in ways they would not have acted without your presence. Influence is invisible, yet it produces visible effects. It is intangible, yet it creates tangible fortunes. And here is the great secret. Money is simply the byproduct of influence. The wealthiest entrepreneurs, the most powerful politicians, the most enduring leaders, each of them discovered that if you can build influence, wealth follows naturally. If you can persuade minds, if you can command attention, if you can inspire loyalty, then resources will flow in your direction. The blueprint of influence. So how is influence built? What makes one individual capable of commanding wealth, while another equally intelligent, equally talented, and equally hardworking remains overlooked? The blueprint of influence can be broken into a few unshakable laws. 1. Definiteness of purpose. No one can influence without clarity. Influence begins when you know exactly what you want and where you are going. The man without purpose cannot persuade because his words carry no conviction. The woman without direction cannot lead because she herself is lost. Purpose is magnetic. It draws people to you. It gives your words weight. It gives your presence authority. 2. Faith in the vision people follow conviction. They are not persuaded by doubt. They are not inspired by hesitation. Influence is built by individuals who radiate faith in their mission. Even when others scoff, even when others resist, even when circumstances look impossible, the one who holds unwavering belief influences others to believe as well. Faith is contagious. Influence spreads because belief spreads. 3. The mastermind principle. No single individual, no matter how brilliant, can achieve massive influence alone. Influence grows when you align yourself with other minds, other talents, other resources. Alliances create power. Coalitions create movements. When you bring people together around a shared purpose, influence multiplies. 4. The language of emotion. Logic convinces the mind, but emotion moves the heart. Influence depends on the ability to speak not only to reason, but to desire, to fear, to hope, to love. The greatest leaders in history knew how to craft words that stirred the deepest emotions of their people. Influence is the art of touching the soul. 5. Persistence. Influence is not granted overnight. It is cultivated over time, reinforced by consistent action, consistent words, and consistent character. When others give up, the persistent one gains credibility. When others waver, the persistent one gains respect. Persistence is proof of belief, and belief fuels influence. Influence in Washington nowhere is the truth. Influence is wealth's first currency, more visible than in Washington. Consider this: men and women enter politics with ordinary means, and yet, after a few decades of public service, they emerge with fortunes. How does this happen? It happens because Washington runs not on money, but on influence. Corporations invest millions not because they love politicians, but because they crave influence. Lobbyists exist because influence shapes laws. Campaigns are funded because influence determines who sits in power. Every bill, every policy, every deal is negotiated not merely with numbers, but with persuasion, alliances, and leverage. And here is the unspoken truth: money does not buy influence. Influence attracts money. If a politician loses influence, the money dries up. If a leader gains influence, money floods in. The flow of wealth always follows the stream of influence, the business world's hidden currency. But this principle is not confined to politics. Every major business empire has been built on influence first, money second. Think of the great industrialists, the modern entrepreneurs, the tech visionaries. Before their companies were profitable, before they had billions in revenue, they had influence. They persuaded investors. They persuaded customers. They persuaded employees to believe in something that did not yet exist. They built communities of believers before they built empires of wealth. Influence creates movements. Movements create markets. Markets create fortunes. That is the true sequence of success. The personal application now. My friends, let us turn from Washington and Wall Street back to you. What does this mean for your own life? It means that if you wish to create wealth, if you wish to achieve success, if you wish to rise above mediocrity, you must focus first on building influence, not money, not possessions, not credentials, influence. Because money can vanish. Opportunities can vanish. But if you have influence, you can always rebuild. You can always attract new resources. You can always create new opportunities. So ask yourself, how much influence do you have? When you speak, do people listen? When you propose an idea, do people follow? When you face resistance, do you command respect? If not, it is time to cultivate the habits, the mindset, and the skills of influence. The foundations of personal influence. Let me share with you some practical ways influence is built in everyday life. Integrity of word and action. Influence is destroyed by hypocrisy. Say what you mean. Do what you say. Consistency builds trust, and trust is the foundation of influence. Service before self. People are influenced by those who make their lives better. If you wish to gain followers, begin by serving. Influence flows to those who provide value. Mastery of communication. Words are the tools of influence. Learn to speak with clarity, conviction, and passion. Influence rises or falls on the ability to communicate. Control of emotion. The one who cannot control his temper cannot influence others. The one who cannot master her fears cannot inspire courage. Influence belongs to those who control themselves first. Vision larger than self-influence expands when people see that your mission is greater than your own comfort or profit. Influence shrinks when it is only self-serving. Influence vs. authority. Here is a truth that few recognize: influence is greater than authority. Authority is given. Influence is earned. A boss may have authority over employees, but without influence, his authority breeds resentment. A teacher may have authority over students, but without influence, her lessons are forgotten. A politician may have authority by title, but without influence, he loses his seat in the next election. Influence endures when authority collapses. Influence lives on when titles fade. Influence is the unseen currency that outlasts formal power. Influence and wealth creation. Wealth, at its root, is the ability to control resources. But resources are always controlled by people, and people are moved by influence. Therefore, if you wish to create wealth, stop chasing money and start cultivating influence. Influence will bring you the investors you need. Influence will bring you the customers you need. Influence will bring you the partners, the mentors, the employees, the opportunities. Influence is the magnet, and money is the metal that follows it. Those who chase money directly are forever running. Those who cultivate influence stand still and attract wealth to them. The invisible war, but let me caution you, influence can be used for creation or destruction. There are leaders who used influence to liberate nations. There are leaders who used influence to enslave nations. There are entrepreneurs who used influence to empower humanity, and there are others who used it to exploit humanity. The invisible war is not just about whether you will gain influence, but how you will use it. Will you use it for service or for selfishness? Will you use it to elevate others or to manipulate them? Will you use it to build freedom or to build chains? Influence, like fire, can warm or it can burn. The responsibility of influence, if influence is wealth's first currency, then it carries responsibility. Because once you gain influence, your decisions do not affect you alone. They ripple outward into the lives of others. A word spoken in influence can ignite hope or despair. A choice made in influence can create opportunity or destroy it. Therefore, influence must be pursued not only with ambition, but with wisdom, with vision, with a heart set on creating more than you consume, on giving more than you take. Influence is power. Influence, in truth, is power. Power over ideas, power over choices, power over the direction of events, and power has always been the real currency of wealth. Those who hold influence shape the flow of resources, and those who shape the flow of resources shape history itself. This is why I say to you again, influence is wealth's first currency, not dollars, not gold, not property, influence. And it is yours to claim if you will discipline your mind, sharpen your words, align with others, and pursue your vision with relentless persistence. My friends, today I want to reveal a truth so profound, so quietly powerful, that it has shaped the course of every nation, every empire, and every life of significance throughout history. The truth is this: he who controls the mind controls the masses. Consider it carefully. This is not a statement about governments alone. It is not a statement about politicians or corporations exclusively. It is a statement about human nature, about the invisible laws that govern thought, belief, and action. The individual mind is the seed from which all empires, wealth, and influence grow. And the collective mind, the minds of millions, is the soil in which empires are planted, nurtured, and harvested. If you want to understand why nations rise and fall, why leaders dominate while others drift, why ideas ignite revolutions or die quietly in the dark, you must begin here at the level of thought. Because power begins not with armies or money, but with ideas, beliefs, and the ability to persuade the human mind. The mind as the battlefield of influence is invisible. There are no guns, no trenches, no uniforms. The struggle is fought silently, quietly, inside the minds of men and women. Every decision you make, every opinion you hold, every fear and hope you harbor is part of this battlefield. Think for a moment about how the world shapes itself. Who decides what is newsworthy? Who decides what is normal, what is right, what is possible? The answer, my friends, is those who understand the mind, those who can influence belief, perception, and emotion. When you control what people think they know, you control how they act. When you control how people feel about an idea, a leader, or a movement, you control their energy, their loyalty, and their resources. And this has been true for centuries, long before television, long before social media, and long before the modern political stage. Even in ancient times, the conqueror who could convince the conquered to follow his vision, not through fear alone, but through belief, built empires that lasted centuries. The individual who could master persuasion could shape the flow of commerce, law, and society. And today, the same principles apply, magnified by the speed and reach of technology, the connectivity of the modern mind, and the sophistication of psychological tools. The laws behind mental influence, there are invisible laws at work, laws that govern persuasion, belief, and influence. These are the same laws that build empires, drive economies, and concentrate power. They are timeless, universal, and they operate whether you understand them or not. The first law is definiteness of purpose. A man or woman who knows exactly what they want projects confidence, direction, and clarity. The masses are drawn to this certainty because it simplifies their own uncertainty. Leaders without clarity, without a chief aim, drift in indecision, and their influence crumbles. Those who control thought at scale know that the appearance of certainty is often as important as the reality of it. The second law is faith and belief. If you can convince yourself and others that an idea is not just possible, but inevitable, you have already won half the battle. The masses follow those who exude belief because belief is contagious. It spreads like a fire through a dry forest, consuming doubt and hesitation, replacing it with action and allegiance. The third law is the law of repetition. Repetition is the engine of influence. Thoughts, when repeated often enough, become beliefs. Beliefs, when repeated in stories, slogans, speeches, and symbols, become behaviors. The law of repetition is why advertising works, why political slogans resonate, and why propaganda can shape entire generations without a single gun being fired. The fourth law is association. We are drawn to ideas, people, and movements not merely because of logic, but because of emotional associations. By linking a thought to a symbol, a narrative, a historical moment, or a figure of respect, leaders can amplify influence exponentially. The masses respond to emotion, not reason alone, and those who control emotional association control action. The fifth law is mastermind alliances. No individual can dominate thought without connection. Influence compounds when minds work together toward a unified vision. Organizations, think tanks, media conglomerates, and political machines operate on this principle, many minds working in harmony, shaping thought, controlling information, and steering public perception. The weaponization of belief, the sad truth, is that many who master these laws do so not for service, not for good, but for accumulation of wealth, power, and control. Belief, once harnessed, becomes a weapon. And make no mistake, this weapon is the most powerful ever created, more decisive than armies, more permanent than gold. Consider the subtle power of media, education, and culture. Every platform that communicates information shapes belief. Every story told, every image shared, every repetition of an idea either strengthens personal autonomy or diminishes it. If you are unaware, your mind is being shaped, directed, and influenced by forces you may never fully see. This is the invisible war. It is fought in classrooms and boardrooms, in the halls of power, and in the privacy of our own homes. Every choice, every opinion, every fear, every hope, it is all a field of battle. And in this battle, ignorance is vulnerability, and knowledge is power. How the masses become pawns, those who fail to control their own mind, unwittingly surrender to the control of others. They allow news cycles, political campaigns, and social narratives to dictate their beliefs. They adopt opinions not tested by reason, but by repetition. They are influenced, persuaded, and manipulated, not because they are weak, but because they are untrained in the laws of the mind. The masses follow leaders who understand human nature. They follow those who appeal to emotion, who simplify complexity, and who promise certainty in a world of uncertainty. And while most people are busy reacting to life, the influential are creating it. It is here that the invisible war becomes personal. Every unexamined thought, every unquestioned belief, every habitual reaction is an opportunity for control. And when billions of minds drift in this way, influence becomes almost effortless for those who have learned to master it. The personal application of mental mastery now, you may be thinking, this is about politics, about power, about the masses, but what does it mean for me? It means everything, because the same laws that allow the powerful to control nations also allow the individual to control their destiny. He who controls his own mind controls his own life. Every ambition, every goal, every dream begins with thought. If your mind is scattered, uncertain, or negative, your destiny will mirror that chaos. If your mind is focused, disciplined, and constructive, your results will follow in kind. Mastering your own mind is the first step to independence. It is the first step to building influence without surrendering your integrity. It is the first step toward freedom from manipulation, distraction, and despair. Techniques to guard and master the mind. There are practical ways to apply these principles immediately. Daily mental discipline: guard your thoughts as a commander guards a fortress. Remove negativity, distractions, and influences that weaken clarity and purpose. Definite chief aim: know exactly what you want in every aspect of life, wealth, health, influence, contribution. Write it, repeat it, and act on it daily. Controlled consumption: limit exposure to repetitive narratives, media, and social influence that do not serve your purpose. Remember, repeated exposure shapes belief. Mastermind connections: surround yourself with minds that elevate you, challenge you, and reinforce your vision. Influence compounds through association. Persistence against resistance: thoughts that lead to action are often met with opposition. Persistence strengthens belief and convinces others through visible demonstration of commitment. By applying these techniques, you take back control over your most precious asset, your own mind, and from this position of mental mastery, you are prepared to navigate a world in which billions of minds are being steered by forces that understand the laws of influence. The ripple effect of mental influence: once you master your own mind, you will notice the ripple effect immediately. Your decisions become clearer. Your actions become deliberate. Your influence grows naturally because belief spreads faster than instruction. Those who control the masses understand that true influence is not forced. It is contagious, and like a flame, it spreads outward, igniting thought, action, and allegiance. Leaders, entrepreneurs, thinkers, and visionaries, regardless of the arena, apply this principle every day, consciously or unconsciously. You have the same opportunity. Your mind is the starting point. Your belief is the ignition. Your actions are the force multiplier. The danger of unconscious submission: but be warned, the world is full of those who do not recognize these laws. They surrender daily to distraction, propaganda, and superficial trends. They allow fleeting emotions to dictate decisions, and fleeting emotions are the currency of manipulation. The invisible war wages quietly, but relentlessly. Every unexamined thought, every unquestioned belief, every habit of passivity is a step toward being controlled by others. And those who master the mind exploit this vulnerability to accumulate wealth, power, and authority. The opportunity in awareness: herein lies the paradox. What enslaves one can empower another. Awareness of these laws, coupled with disciplined application, is your key to freedom. Understanding how influence works allows you to defend against manipulation and to wield influence responsibly. The individual who can control their own mind becomes a beacon. Their clarity, conviction, and decisiveness draw others naturally. Their influence multiplies, not through coercion, but through demonstration, integrity, and persistence. Leadership, influence, and responsibility: control over the mind carries responsibility. True leadership is not domination. It is stewardship of influence. To control the masses ethically, one must first master the self. One must first conquer fear, doubt, and indecision. One must cultivate clarity, purpose, and unwavering belief. And remember, influence is not only external. Every thought you project into the world has consequences. Every belief you embody shapes behavior, not only for yourself, but for those around you. The more disciplined your mind, the more constructive the ripple effect. There is a truth so profound, so foundational to every achievement of consequence, that to ignore it is to ensure a life of struggle, limitation, and missed opportunity. That truth is this: all power is built on alliances. Not ambition alone, not courage alone, not intelligence alone, though these are important. Power without alliances is a fragile flame, easily extinguished. It is an isolated endeavor, a dream unshared, a mission that falters under pressure. But the man or woman who understands the art of alliance harnesses a force far greater than any single individual could command. Consider the greatest leaders history has ever produced. They did not rise to prominence through brilliance alone. They did not conquer empires solely with strategy or outshine competitors purely by willpower. No, they surrounded themselves with minds stronger, sharper, and more capable in ways they themselves were not. They built networks, partnerships, and coalitions. They created what I call a mastermind alliance, a symphony of intellects, talents, and resources combined toward a common goal. The concept is deceptively simple, yet astonishingly powerful. Every human being, no matter how gifted, is limited by the boundaries of his own mind. A solitary mind can innovate, but it can only reach so far. A solitary mind can act, but it can only achieve so much. Only when multiple minds unite in purpose, synergy, and mutual trust can the impossible become possible. The principle of mutual benefit. At the heart of every alliance lies a principle that many overlook: mutual benefit. An alliance that serves only one person is doomed to collapse sooner or later. It may appear to succeed temporarily, but it lacks the sustaining energy that comes from reciprocity, loyalty, and shared vision. Consider the leaders who seem untouchable. What do they all have in common? They understand that every alliance must answer one simple question: what does each member gain, and how do we amplify each other's strengths? When a politician, a business magnate, or a visionary entrepreneur forms an alliance, it is not a casual handshake or a superficial agreement. It is a deliberate act of strategy, a recognition that combined effort multiplies the power of the individual exponentially. And this principle applies to every sphere of life. In business, in politics, in social influence, in personal growth, those who master alliances rise. Those who ignore them stagnate. A brilliant mind without collaborators is like a single spark in a storm. It flickers and dies. But a spark that ignites kindred flames can set forests ablaze. How alliances multiply power. Let me break it down for you, step by step. When you form an alliance with the right people, you are not merely gaining numbers. You are gaining perspective, talent, access, and leverage. Perspective: every individual sees the world differently. Your mind is shaped by your experiences, your education, your habits. One person alone can only perceive a fragment of reality, but an alliance allows you to see from multiple angles, to anticipate obstacles, to discover solutions that would remain invisible to a single mind. Talent: every person possesses unique abilities. By joining forces with others, you gain skills you do not possess, skills that complement and enhance your own. The artist joins the strategist, the planner joins the executor, the visionary joins the analyst. Together, they achieve feats no single mind could imagine. Access alliances open doors that would otherwise remain closed. Relationships, networks, and influence are the hidden currency of success. One cannot simply knock on every door in the world and expect it to open. But with allies who already possess access, you can move through corridors of opportunity with speed, grace, and authority. Leverage, and finally alliances provide leverage, the ability to move more, act more, and accomplish more than you could ever achieve alone. A single individual pushing a boulder up a hill will struggle, perhaps even fail. But 10 hands working in concert move it with ease. Power multiplies through collaboration, and influence expands when energy is shared. The Mastermind Alliance, the concept of the Mastermind Alliance, is a cornerstone of every success philosophy. It is not merely a team, not merely a partnership, not merely a club. It is a dynamic network of minds, each committed to the success of the others, each contributing wisdom, experience, and energy to a common objective. Napoleon Hill, the great philosopher of success, understood this principle better than anyone. He wrote that no man can achieve lasting success without the support, counsel, and encouragement of others. Success is not a solo journey. It is a collaborative one. And the Mastermind Alliance is the vehicle through which the invisible forces of thought, strategy, and determination converge to create extraordinary results. A mastermind is not formed by proximity alone. It is formed by shared purpose, mutual respect, trust, and aligned ambition. You cannot simply gather talented people in one room and call it a mastermind. That is a meeting. A mastermind requires focus, intention, and shared vision. How to form effective alliances? Now, you may be asking yourself, how do I form alliances that truly multiply power? The answer lies in understanding both human nature and the laws of success. Seek complementarity, not similarity. Align yourself with individuals whose strengths offset your weaknesses. Do not surround yourself with clones of yourself. Seek those who challenge you, inspire you, and fill the gaps in your own capabilities. Offer value-first alliances are reciprocal. If you enter a relationship expecting only to receive, you will fail. Give your knowledge, your resources, your energy, your loyalty before expecting anything in return. Mutual respect and mutual benefit are the foundations of enduring power. Build trust relentlessly. Without trust, no alliance can survive. Be consistent, be reliable, and honor every commitment. A single act of betrayal can undo years of collaboration. Trust is the invisible currency that sustains power far longer than charisma or skill ever could. Define a shared purpose. Every successful alliance has a clearly articulated goal. It is not vague, it is specific. Everyone involved must know exactly what they are working toward, how success is measured, and how their contributions matter. Communicate openly, and strategically power is lost through miscommunication, misunderstanding, and hidden agendas. Share ideas freely, plan meticulously, and ensure that every member of the alliance understands the strategy and the role they play. Adapt and evolve together. No plan survives unchanged. The landscape of life, business, and politics is always shifting. Strong alliances are flexible. They adjust, pivot, and evolve while keeping the shared purpose intact. The pitfalls of weak alliances, but be warned, my friends, not all alliances are created equal. A poorly constructed alliance can be more dangerous than none at all. Weak alliances are filled with ego, competition, and distrust. They fracture under pressure. They dissolve when challenges arise. Worse, they can drain your energy, misdirect your efforts, and even sabotage your goals. Many ambitious people fail not because they lack skill, intelligence, or desire, but because they align themselves with the wrong people. They enter partnerships motivated by convenience, flattery, or temporary gain, rather than strategic compatibility and shared purpose. True power comes from the alignment of hearts and minds toward a singular vision, not from a superficial network of acquaintances. Alliances in history offers endless examples of this principle in action. The greatest military campaigns were not won by lone generals. They were won by leaders who understood the power of alliances. Alexander the Great had advisors, commanders, and allies who guided him, counseled him, and executed his strategies. Without them, he would have been just another soldier with ambition. In business, consider the industrialists and innovators who transformed the world. They did not create empires alone. They surrounded themselves with brilliant minds, engineers, financiers, strategists, and visionaries who collectively turned ideas into empires. Even in politics, the most influential leaders of our time have relied on teams, coalitions, and networks to enact their vision. The lesson is universal. Power is never a solitary endeavor. Alliances and personal life, and do not think this principle applies only to business or politics. Your personal life, your family, your community, all are shaped by alliances. Strong marriages, strong friendships, and strong communities are built on the same laws: shared purpose, mutual benefit, trust, and loyalty. Those who try to navigate life entirely alone often find themselves isolated, overburdened, and defeated by circumstances that could have been overcome with collaboration. Alliances allow you to borrow strength from others, to amplify your energy, and to expand your capacity to impact the world. They are not a crutch. They are a force multiplier. The invisible power of the mastermind. There is a hidden energy, an invisible force, that emerges when true alliances are formed. Hill called it the mastermind. I call it the power beyond the sum of its parts. When minds unite in harmony and purpose, ideas gain momentum, obstacles shrink, and opportunities reveal themselves in ways that no single individual could predict. The mastermind is not merely the pooling of knowledge. It is the fusion of energy, determination, and vision. It creates an unstoppable force. And this is why all power, all influence, all extraordinary achievement originates in alliances. You may have vision, you may have talent, you may have ambition, but without the support, the counsel, and the collective energy of others, your power is limited. How to recognize a true alliance? A true alliance is evident in three ways: shared sacrifice, every member invests, risks, and contributes, knowing that the payoff is collective. Mutual respect, each individual's abilities and insights are valued and leveraged. Aligned destiny, the vision of the alliance is so compelling that it transcends individual desires, binding members together in pursuit of something greater than themselves. Those who understand this principle can navigate life strategically. Those who ignore it stumble in isolation, wasting time, energy, and potential on solitary struggle. Conclusion without ending. So, my friends, remember this truth above all else: the road to lasting power, influence, and achievement is never traveled alone. It is paved with the alliances you form, nurtured by the trust you cultivate, and strengthened by the shared vision you inspire in others. Whether in business, politics, or the quiet realms of personal ambition, the principle holds all power is built on alliances. It is the law of success applied to life itself, the invisible engine behind every triumph, the secret weapon of those who rise while others stumble, and the principle that, once understood, can transform ordinary existence into extraordinary achievement.